This is Sig P365 380 versus Sig P365 9mm. A comparison. Let's hit the range. It was a nice day at Banner Range when this video was recorded, so you'll have to contend with some background noise. The P365 380 uses the same grip and fire control group as the 9mm version, and while the slide has been lightened and it uses a lighter recoil spring, the external measurements are otherwise the same. Both firearms are 5.8 inches long, 4.2 inches high, 1 inch wide. The 365 and 9mm weighs in at 17.8 ounces, while the 380 version is at 15.7 ounces. Now the 9mm version we have for pictures is the Sig anti-snag or SAS model, but in the normal configuration both firearms would come with the Sig rail as seen, the standard curved trigger, as well as the Sig Light night sights, which are a 3-dot tritium night sight system. The anti-snag version, as you can see, also has some low profile controls instead of the standard takedown lever and slide release. Now, no two triggers are identical from the factory on a gun like this. Off my gauge, the 9mm version had a trigger of 4 pounds 1 ounce, whereas the 380 version it was 4 pounds 6 ounces. Now, we usually include comparison shots, so here you can see them. They're pretty unremarkable. The guns are identical in size, though you do get to see a little difference in how that MiPro night sight is set up versus the standard Sig night sights. How about we do a little more range time before we talk about some of the differences between the firearms. One area where the 365 380 has what I'm going to call a nice upgrade over the 365 and 9mm is the 365 380 comes optics cut by Sig, and this is designed to support the Romeo Zero style optics. Now you can get versions of the 365 and 9mm that are optics ready, like say my XL version is seen here. The one thing you'll notice is on my XL, which was optics cut on an optics cut designed by Zev, that you lose your rear sight when you mount your red dot. That's one thing that many people mention both in the comments and then in person when I shoot this gun. They don't like that they lose the co-witness ability with the rear sight. On the 380 version, you can see that where the optics would mount is forward of the rear sight, allowing you to still co-witness a front and rear sight with that optics. Now, one area where I am a fan more of the 9mm version versus the 380 is I'm not a fan of the screws exposed at the top holding them out in place. As you can see on the other one, the plate actually does not have any screws on it. On the XL version, the screws actually go through the underside of the slide into the sights to lock that all into place, which I think gives it a little cleaner look. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are still not a fan of that design. Now, speaking of the XL grip that came on my XL model, here I've taken the XL grip off and I've put it on the 380. So as you can see, the 380 slide with the XL grip and the flat face trigger. We're going to test that out this weekend. I'm really looking forward to that. Give you a couple shots in some different lighting to try to give you an idea of the difference in size between the regular grip frame versus the XL grip frame when it comes to this P365 380. And of course, another option you have that we're looking forward to testing this weekend is the 15-round magazine option. That's a lot of firepower in a little package. Giggity. If you watch the first range report, you'll see that I tried a few magazines of 380 ammo out of the 9mm mags and had no problems. As far as I can tell, other than maybe a slight difference in the follower, there's no difference in size between the 9mm and the 380 magazines. And here's some pictures from the side, the back, and the front, just to give you an idea of the size of them. Now with the 380 slide being lightened, here's a shot showing where some of the material has been removed to help lighten that slide. And as I mentioned in the first range report, there are some subtle differences in the barrel design to where you can't put a 9mm barrel in the 380 slide and vice versa. At least I couldn't. Before we get into our closing thoughts, how about a little more range time? Now the biggest difference that I've found thus far between the 365 380 and the 365 and 9mm is in the recoil. And that's probably going to be the most obvious area for most people, and also the area that if you're considering the 380 version over the 9mm version, why you're considering it so. Now one area where I think that is very noticeable in reviewing the footage from this video is you can see it numerous times when shooting the 9mm version. I will adjust my grip after a shot or three, whereas on the 380 version, not only do I shoot that faster, but I typically also shoot it in a much more comfortable and steady, without having to reset my grip fashion. Now another area, in my opinion, that is visible is in both the rate of fire and the accuracy when using the 380 version versus the 9mm version. Some people are going to throw out a yabbit on the bullseye sight on my 9mm version that we shot here today. And while I would concede that I would probably shoot slightly better groups had I had the Sig light sights instead of the bullseye sight, I don't think the change would be significant such that I would shoot it noticeably better. Now, I do have a lot of confidence in that bullseye sight, and I have shot that gun with that sight quite a bit, which explains the confidence in it. Now, in my opinion, one area where I think Sig was very wise is making the 365 380 use the same grip and fire control module as on the 9mm version. Now, salespeople will probably say, they should have made them just different enough so people have to buy two of them. And I think the counter argument to that is, I think they wanted to make this more accessible and to, as say, people age, that they can still use, say, their 9mm grips and fire triggers and all these things as they get, say, more recoil sensitive. Now the more realistic answer is they probably just didn't want to have to do double the work and double the tooling and all that, making slightly different parts. No matter what the real answer is, I think the advantage to the consumer is right out the gate we have some nice factory available modifications that you can do, like the XL grip frame if you want a slightly longer grip on your P365 380. That can be huge, as you saw in our previous pictures. Now that doesn't mean that the 380 version wins everywhere. A lot of people are still going to be fans of 9mm simply because it has a wider variety of ammo available and it has a lot more stopping power in today's world than, say, the 380 does. And as far as ammo goes, ammo availability actually is a big concern, especially in today's Rona environment. For the past couple of years, there would be months at a time where I could go without seeing any 3 ammo in a store. And even now, it's just barely starting to trickle in. I some weekends see Hornady Critical Defense, most weekends I don't. So it's hit or miss, really. How much you can practice and how much you can get ammo, that should be, a choice that weighs into your decision, in my opinion. Now, if I lived somewhere where I had a choice of any ammo I wanted and I didn't have to worry about availability, my choice of the two, I would probably gravitate towards the 380 version. Now, I'm of the mindset that I want less recoil, and shooting a firearm that has less recoil, I can get back on target faster and I can do follow-up shots faster. Typically, my first shot, with a gun that I'm comfortable with, my first shot is usually pretty good. But when it comes down to shots 2, 3, 4, etc., if those are necessary, I want them to be as quick and accurate as possible. And for me, I'm more comfortable and accurate with a 380 in that regard with this size pistol than I am with a 9mm. But that's just me. I'm not you, and I'm not, an expert. Well, I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a good day.